Welcome to Command Control Power, a weekly podcast hosted by 3 certified members of the Apple Consultants Network, drawing from over half a century of combined experience. We talk shop, interview vendors and colleagues, and share what we've learned while operating our technology consulting practices. This is Joe Saponari of SciMac, and my 2 co-hosts are Jerry Zigman of MacWorks and Sam Valencia of the HCS Technology Group. For the freshest content, a peek behind the scenes, and more candid conversation about running our businesses, dealing with clients, fixing tough technical issues, and everything else you love about Command Control Power, we invite you to join us on Patreon so you don't miss any of this great content. Go to commandcontrolpower.com and click support. Pledge monthly, and you can instantly subscribe to the patron-only shows right in your favorite podcast app. Once again, to join us on Patreon and get the latest patron-only episodes, visit commandcontrolpower.com and click support. We hope to see you there, and thanks for listening. Command Control Power is brought to you commercial-free thanks to the support of our community. Our VIP supporters include Jason Detbarn of Adigy.com, Taylor Boyko of SimpleMDM.com, Collide.co, John Brown of GroveTech.co, Watchman Monitoring, and Adam Angst of Tidbits Content Network. Thanks very much for supporting the show. So I talked either recently or very soon on a patron-only episode about a client, significant client for me, a longtime client, personal friend with 4 brand new setup now, 4 studio displays with nano texture glass. 2 of them are wall mounted, 2 of them are on the desk. It's a really sweet setup, all run from a Mac Studio. It's amazing what you can do now with this Mac Studio running those 4 Apple Studio displays. It's a great system, and I was talking recently about the level of detail that sometimes goes into a project when a client is very detail-oriented like that. So a couple of examples of some things that came up in that process. First of all, a recommendation on this photos automation demo. I just highly recommend everybody, whether you're into scripting or automation or not, go to photosautomation.com. And just check out, they have tons of awesome photos, utilities, AppleScripts, and things you can use like as a basis for your own scripts and things. But there's a great photos automation demo of things you can do if you use these scripts, and you can literally just do everything by voice control. And so one example that they gave is you have photos from a trip and you want to do a little keynote presentation. And let's say you want to have your photo show on a map and then zoom in to that, that image, and then zoom out and show it back on the map, and then show the next one and zoom in and zoom out. All of that stuff you could do that all manually in Keynote, but you can do that with voice control. Like you can tell Photos app to export a photo to Keynote. You can tell Keynote to animate it like that. All by voice. It's just incredibly impressive. So I use this site as a reference when I was building out this automator workflow that I'll mention, but I think it's of general interest just to check out this photosautomation.com site. It's very impressive. So one of the things I did was I created an automator and AppleScript workflow to process a series of selected photos libraries. And if anybody's interested in this, by the way, I could consider releasing it to patrons if there is any interest. I'm not sure it's that general interest, but if you have photographer clients who have a pile of photos libraries where, or even clients, I have some clients who've done this, just residential clients where they got the advice at one point to create a different photos library for each year, that kind of thing. And maybe you don't want to just go through the process of upgrading them one by one. I created this AppleScript automator workflow that basically lets you select a series of photo libraries, like you can select 10 of them, and run this, what they used to call a service. So you right click on this pile of 10 photos libraries, let's say, and you go to the quick action menu and you select this little update photos libraries, quick action. And it will open the first one, wait for it to be updated by photos, and then close photos, and then open the next one, wait for it to be updated and close that one, and so on. And it has some basic error handling and stuff like that. And a lot of this was based on just the research I did on that website and just kind of trial and error. But yeah, if you're interested in that, or you have any use for that, just let me know. But that site was pretty awesome. Another little tip is if you have this kind of 4 monitor setup, again, probably an edge case, but if you want to display a screensaver, a different screensaver on each of the 4 monitors, let's say a slideshow on each one, there's this thing called the Art Saver screensaver. That was necessary in this case because Apple has had this long-standing bug where if you select the built-in Photos screensaver and you have, like more than one monitor, what it's supposed to do is just display the same image on all 4 monitors, in this case, 4 monitors, which would be okay. It's not what the client would want, I think. It would be okay if it just did that consistently. But they tell me, and I've seen, that it will randomly just start to, one monitor starts to show a different image than the other three. So it looks really silly. You have this like big, beautiful setup, and then you have this, who would ever choose to display one image on one monitor and the same image on three other monitors? It just looks silly. So they didn't want that to happen. And I found that the ArtSaver screensaver lets you select, say, a different source of images for each of 4 screens. Or you can select the same source, but display random images from the same source on all 4 different screens. So I was happy to find that, because there isn't really a market for photos slideshows, because the built-in one for 99% of people is great. It works fine. But this edge case of having multiple monitors, I needed to find a solution. So I found that, and it's been working. Another recommendation I found in researching that, I actually wanted to research how to rename the monitors, because they have 4 monitors that are all the same brand and model. So they just show up as Apple Studio Display 1, Apple Studio Display 2. And that order is set, I don't know, based on which Thunderbolt port they're plugged into, or which order they like light up or something, or boot up or whatever. I wanted to rename them. I looked into this. I couldn't figure it out. But one of the paths I went down was this app called MonitorControl. So it's monitorcontrol.app. It redirects to a Git where this kind of like open source thing called MonitorControl is available for free. And it didn't do what I wanted for them, but it works great for me. So now I have control over my Dell monitor using the brightness keys on my Apple keyboard. Now, those keys work great for the built-in monitor, but they don't work with external displays unless you have probably an Apple Studio display. But they don't work for my Dell monitor. And so this monitor control project lets me control my external monitor from the built-in brightness keys. And it does other things too, but that's a really convenient feature. Yeah, you might be interested in that.
I'm hooked. Is this the GitHub project that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's great. It's really great. Yeah, it was fantastic, because up until now, it's like I had to go into the little menu on the monitor and adjust the brightness through the annoying buttons, on the physical monitor, and then like adjust it back when I'm watching TV on the same monitor, or the next morning when now it's way too dim. Now I have to go back into that stupid menu on screen that's all pixelated and looks weird, and I forget which buttons to press and stuff. Yeah, so monitor control, it's just like the best little quality of life improvement, because I can just dim the screen at night and keep working and then brighten it in the morning. So yeah, it's fantastic.
God, Joe, I love you. I'm using it already.
Nice.
Like from the start of your conversation to now, I've installed it. I set my security and privacy setting, and I added it to login. Oh my God, this is awesome.
Wow, that was fast. Nicely done. Yeah, there's great. Check out the preferences. There's a lot of advanced preferences and stuff too, and things you can do with like,
I knew
HDR.
you were doing something during the show, Sam.
Great.
You're there silent. When you're sometimes silent, you're installing programs and working on things. That's good. I'm glad you keep working during the show.
Only by your recommendations, gentlemen.
Nice. That's one that I actually installed again because I tested it and I'm like, wow, this thing's great. So I kept it. Whereas I know, Jerry, you tend to, like my old boss 20 years ago used to say, he's never met a system extension he didn't like. You just got its icons marching across the screen when you first boot up or whatever. And I know that's the end of the spectrum that Jerry's on, whereas I try to run as close to the app first party way as possible. But this is a thing I will install because it's just so useful. So yeah, that's a great one. And I'm not usually the tip guy, but there you go. One last thing was on the topic, I think I mentioned it in that patron only show where the client, I guess they had this app called Mouseposé, which is a way to find a cursor on a big screen. Now, and Apple built this in at some point where you just like shake the mouse and it grows in size. The cursor gets larger, the arrow, the pointer, whatever. They liked the way that they had this app called Mouseposé. And you can just press a hotkey, and it just dims the whole screen, except it puts a spotlight on the mouse cursor, which you can imagine if you've got 4 massive screens, you might lose the mouse once in a while. And it's hard to find it, even if you're moving it, even if you're shaking it. So they like this key. They got used to pressing this key to highlight where the cursor is. They use it all the time. We did the upgrade to the new Mac and then the new system, the new hardware, the new keyboard. And the old Apple wireless keyboard had, I think it was like the F6 key, or maybe it was like 2 of the keys in the middle there, the function keys that didn't have an Apple special media key function like brightness and volume and whatever else. Now they all have that function. So none of the keys on that function row are available to map to whatever you want. They're all special keys for Apple, including a do not disturb key, which I'm not sure that's a great idea to have a do not disturb key on the keyboard. I feel like I'm going to get calls about this when more people start having these keyboards. There's a dictation key. There's some useful ones on there. But the key that used to be the Mouseposé key was F6 because it was, again, a blank one. Now that's the do not disturb key. So I tried, I gave them some workarounds. I said, now it's function F6. Just do that. And they tried it and it wasn't really the right solution for them because I couldn't find a way to like remap just that key. I don't want a do not disturb key. I want to use do not disturb key to do something else. I couldn't find a built-in way to do that. And maybe I just missed it. But at initial research, I said, well, I don't think it's possible. Can you try this workaround? They didn't like the workaround and they wanted a single key. So I did some more research and I found this app, and I don't know what this name is, but Karabiner-Elements with a K. So it's karabiner-elements.pqrs.org. Maybe you can put this in the show notes, but you can also just search for Karabiner-Elements. And what it does
Sam,
is
install it.
Yeah, you can just check it out right now.
I'm working on it.
So when I found this, I don't install a lot of these third-party random customizations. I don't like how it adds a new layer to my troubleshooting path and might screw something up. Who knows what it's just weird. It's going to monitor your keystrokes. Number one, that's a concern. But so I like the slogan here, a powerful and stable keyboard customizer for macOS. Stable. They won me over at stable. So I tried it and it does just what it's supposed to do. You install this thing and you can say, just remap that do not disturb key, that function, that F6 key, remap that to F6. So it's just the original function, F6, not do not disturb. And then once you have that, you just map that to whatever you want. So Mouseposé has the option to say, just set the hotkey. And now when I press F6, it's F6. And therefore Mouseposé sees it and I can map it to that function and client is good to go. They're happy that to them, it's a simple thing. Press the key, the thing happens. But I had to go through all these steps to research it and implement it. So I thought some of those might be helpful to some people out there.
A few observations. First of all, I think you find it oddly satisfying to say the word Mouseposé. And I actually haven't tried it myself. I do like saying it this one time that I did say it. And the other thing I wanted to say is this is all from this one client, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You could go out of business, Joe.
Yeah.
This is a one-way ticket out of business.
I haven't billed this project yet. I billed the first part of it that was already budgeted for and prepaid. A lot of the rest of this stuff is we're going to have a conversation because it just, as you see here, it's very detailed. And whereas a lot of clients would accept that this isn't possible or this is not easy to do or it's not worth like pursuing this, they understand implicitly like that there's going to be a cost if I have to chase something down for a while. And most clients would just feel like, I don't want to take on that cost. Just get me to the point where the Mac is like viable and I can function. And this client is more detail oriented. So I think they're willing to pay for it. It's just a question.
You're being too nice. Yeah. From this point forward, when we get clients like this, we'll just refer to them as, oh man, I just had another Mouseposé client the other day. Are we agreed on that?
Hey, listen, Sam got some value out of the monitor control already.
Sam, say it. Just try it. Just say it once. You're going to like it.
You want me to say Mouseposé?
Yeah. See?
It does feel oddly satisfying, actually. Yeah, I will say
oddly satisfying.
Apple used to call it Expose. I don't know why. Do they still? I don't think they call it that anymore, right? Now it's just all mission control. Yeah.
If you're listening at home or in your car, just say it out loud right here. We'll wait a moment.
I love the fact that there are going to be people in their cars or in their homes actually saying it once you request that, Jerry. That's great.
This is a lot of free publicity for Mouseposé. It's like an obscure tool from years ago.
Nana will be saying it in her kitchen as she makes the. And every time you're talking about what about the display, the Nana texture? I'm just thinking Nana's in the kitchen. She's making stuffed cabbage and she needs a screen that she can clean in case she splashes on it. So you got to get it Nana textured.
No, I think you need a special cleaning cloth for the Nana texture screen. So it's even worse.
Yeah, I'm sure. What is Apple's number on that? Isn't it like
I think
Franklin?
Yeah, and I think it's $300 more for the nano texture glass option, but it's $400 for the tilt and height adjustable stand.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Benjamins.
I know. I honestly, every time I quote that to a client, I'm like, they must be thinking like they're out of their damn minds, like $400 for the option to adjust the height of something. Like that it sounds like bad engineering. It costs us $400 to enable this option for you. Certainly there should be a $50 way to adjust the height of something. But I have clients, they go for it. I don't know. I just had one yesterday that went for it.
I'm sure somewhere at Apple, when they were putting this all together, there were a lot of inter-office memos that went back and forth. Yeah. And then some guys were snickering in the corner as they put the $400 price tag on that.
Yeah. No, it's significant. Here's another recommendation because I love my current setup right now. I've mentioned that before, but Ergotron, and this is another name I probably like to say, but it's an arm mount that mounts to clamps to the desk basically. And I think there's also like a grommet option. I'm just saying all the words that Jerry's going to make fun of now.
All the buzzwords, yeah.
But it's a great arm mount because I get like the benefits of basically almost like a standing desk. Certainly it's designed more for sitting, but I can raise it up enough and tilt it where I have essentially a standing desk option here at my desk on my desktop. I can move it back, I can move forward, up, down. It has all the adjustments, like way more than just height adjustable. It does all of that. And I'm pretty sure it was less than $400 for that.
So you don't have the grommet version?
I think it's included, actually. I think I could have put it through a grommet, but I just have it, like the desk just works out well where it can just clamp to the side of the desk.
I think that's called the Wallace.
There it is.
First, Jerry.
You knew I was going for that, Sam?
Damn it. I was gonna go with that.
Nicely done.
Oh, you're so quick-witted, my friend. You got to it first. Well done.
That's why I get the big money on this show.
That's some good recommendations. I honestly, I think the one that I took out of it, that paid for my price of admission right there. So I'm happy.
Nice.
I've been messing around with it. Nothing like that, Joe, to that degree of setting your parameters, how you want them on your Mac. Certainly MonitorControl blew my mind. But what I was working on, and I'm not sure how many people have experience with this one, but is an app called Miro. Have you heard of Miro, guys?
Oh, yeah, for like whiteboards and stuff, what they call it.
Yeah, so the long and the short of it is I had a customer that he came from a very corporate background and he likes to see visual presentations and all that cool stuff. And my usual boring, here's my estimate, doesn't really work for him. So I used Miro to create, I just used like their template for a timeline. And I threw in a timeline and I put in the projects that we wanted to work on and organize them by security and network and all these buzzwords, grommet. I threw that in there just for fun. And I have it all
Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And he was like blown away. This took me like 15 minutes, right, to put this thing together in Miro. But he was like, oh, this is exactly what I was looking for. Thank you so much. And he was like blown away by it. I was like, yes. Just knowing your players and know how to blow their socks off was good. But Miro was perfect for that. So if you ever want to give it a whirl, it's a great little project management tool.
I'm going to bring it down to the simple caveman level right now. This isn't one of those fancy pants apps like Miro or Mouseposé. There we go again. I mentioned it on another show, and it was supposedly Sherlocked by Apple. And I can't tell you that, first of all, it hasn't been Sherlocked by Apple because this is so much more useful. And I literally use this app all day long, and that's TextSniper. So if you go to TextSniper.app, it'll bring you to the website, and this sits up in your menu bar, and you capture text. And I use that in conjunction with Alfred. So let's say I'm doing an invoice, and I want to just copy text from, I don't know, like a PDF, and that gets complicated. It'll basically, you just window around any piece of text anywhere on your screen, and it copies it instantly. So yeah, Apple's got that little baked in feature, but there's a lot of screwing around to just grab text from different places on your computer. And this is so easy and so simple. And I literally use it all day long for different things, for constructing emails, just grabbing little bits of text. You don't really realize how much you do that until you have an app like this where it just saves you so much time. So you can do a keystroke or you could just grab it from the menu bar as a pull down option, and it just copies it to the clipboard, and it's brilliant. You just paste it wherever you need to paste it.
I remember you talking about this and thinking it would be Sherlocked, but yeah, the fact that you can just select and grab, it does make it very efficient, especially if you're moving along in your day. So yeah, you can grab text from images and things like that using the built-in tools, but I did grab that the first time you mentioned it as well, Jerry. I think TextSniper is great.
Oh, good for you, Sam. And I guess it's not very much money. It's a one-time fee of $8. And Joe spends that at the coffee shop, just getting one of those fancy coffees that he orders.
Only $1 a day.
Yeah. I have to say, I've used the built-in method fairly frequently. One of the things I use it for is, tell me if you guys do this too, grabbing text from Synology DSM. because for whatever reason, a lot of the text is not selectable. So I'm just sitting there trying to copy and paste a version number of something, and you can't select the text. So I'll take a screenshot and then I'll go use the built-in Apple method of grabbing that text from there. But it's made things a little bit more complicated, like on a client level, because it used to be that they'd send us something and they were, how come this won't open in Word or something? And that's just a picture. It's not text. Now it's a picture, but you can still get the text. It's a weird world where everything's just becoming whatever you want it to be. It's text. It's an image. It's whatever you need it to be.
Explain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you guys tell me if it's off topic, but you just mentioned the Synology, and it doesn't have anything to do with a recommendation or anything like that, but it was a quick mention of what I thought was a disaster with a Synology just the other day. We had a customer that said, hey, we can't access our file server anymore. Oh, okay, that's weird. So I jump in remotely and I can get to the Synology. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Synology's up. I have nothing to worry about at this point. And then I try connecting to it, and my Finder just kind of spins and tries to. It initially gets me to authenticate, and then nothing happens. So I go back to the Synology, and I go into File Station, and nothing's there. And I see the top level, and then it just spins. And after, I think it took up to 5 minutes, it said just request timed out. My heart starts beating faster, and I'm like, uh-oh, like, where's the data? I want to at least see the data. Just tell me that it's there. Yeah. And then I'll move on from there. I did have a backup, yes, but I didn't want to have to deal with grabbing that data. And so I'm like getting worried. The client's freaking out because of course, there's always a freaking deadline. But I wanted to throw this out there because what ended up happening is it appeared that in File Station, you couldn't access anything. And it appeared that no data was there except for that top level folder, and it kept timing out. But what ended up being is that this Synology was tied to a directory, in this case, Active Directory. And at one point recently, they changed their DNS servers at the company or something, and it stopped being able to reach out to Active Directory. And it kept trying so hard to reach out that it just basically freaked out all the rest of the services, including file services. And because all the permissions were on the folders were based in Active Directory, it just seized up.
Wow.
That was crazy. And thankfully, I looked online and found some people talking about this on the Synology forums. I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's that. And once we changed the DNS and reconnected to Active Directory, it came back up within moments. Thank goodness. But I wanted to put that out there in case anyone sees a similar behavior. Hopefully you don't. But if you do and you are connected to a directory, it could be related.
So when you say change the DNS, there was a problem with the DNS?
Yeah, they had actually. This is a larger company. We just managed the Synology for the little Mac area. They had changed DNS servers in the company and didn't tell us. Nice. So when that happened, yeah, that just the Synology said, where is everybody? And it couldn't talk to anything anymore.
I hope you're going to charge them sufficiently for your expertise there in figuring that out.
Yes, sir. I definitely will. I already put that on my billable for the month because I didn't forget about that one.
Yeah, so many times clients are just like negligent. Hi, Comcast was just here and they upgraded the modem and now we don't have internet service.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, I had a client who said, hey, we switched our phone system to Ring Central. Have you heard of it? Yeah, I could have gotten some affiliate income probably, but anyway, let's move on. And we have the new device, and every time we plug it in, our internet goes down because we're just following their instructions, and we either have phone or we have internet, but we don't have both. And the service switches over tomorrow morning. I'm like, okay, this is the first we're hearing about it. Like, we've been in touch with you about a lot of other things lately. Like, you're a regular client and you just didn't think to talk to us about, do we recommend the thing that you found yourself? What do we need to know about? And then they're like, we need a switch. We need a switch. Okay, you're talking to the wrong people here. Who are you talking to that's not us first? That's telling you. And yeah, maybe you need a switch. I don't know. Show me what you're trying to do. Where are you plugging this phone in? What is the phone? I need like basic information here now. And so they sent me some photos, and they're plugging the phone line, like the link or yay link or whatever it is, into the
Kanye West link.
Yeah, exactly. The Kanye link phone into their modem. They're just like unplugging whatever else is going on.
Sorry, I'm like, still laughing at the
Kanye West phone. Oh man,
that was good, Jerry.
That was pretty good. Yay link. Yeah, it's like bringing down their whole rest of their network, all the workstations, everything. Show me what else you have. What's plugged into the modem normally? What's that? And they send me the photo of the Airport Extreme from 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, whatever it is. all right, you need a network upgrade too. Thanks. Glad, because we've recommended that in the past, but it's just whatever. We couldn't get any engagement on it. And now it's relevant. This is old also. You really need to replace this. Also, you see those 3 open ports on this thing? Just plug it in there. 15-minute charge, like problem solved. But also now we know that we also need to upgrade your network at this point. But it was just funny. It's like you're calling us now after you've already researched and decided and bought the stuff and planned the switch over, and it's happening tomorrow. And now it's 6 p.m., their time, and it just needs to be done right now. Wow, it's just another example of, it's strange to hear this late in the process about something that's like a technology solution that you sourced your own. And we have a monthly, they're on our monthly plan.
Oh boy, that's even worse.
It's worse. Yeah. You're supposed to just ask us like a simple 2-minute email. We're switching our phones. We think we're going to choose this one. What do you think? Now we at least have some background to this whole thing.
Yeah. And then you fix the situation and, they're going to play, what do you call it? What's the animal that plays dead all the time?
Possum. Yeah.
Possum?
Yeah.
Is it a possum or is it possum?
I think it could be either.
They play dead possum and you don't hear from them again. So the airport's going to work for another 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, Joe, I just signed you up for a reseller application on Boinks, the people who make Mouseposé. So you're a good asset here.
Nice.
That's an even better name, Boinks.
Yeah.
Oddly satisfying.
That one's even more satisfying, I think, than Mouseposé.
Yeah, good naming out there. I got to thank Sam for the feedback. That I really swear I had solicited this in the past live on the show, and it was radio silence, but maybe I didn't. I put the call out to listeners. I did the all points bulletin. I really need to know an answer on this. And when I finally put it in our Command Control Power channel on Slack is when I get Sam's feedback that this should be fine. So it's the M2 MacBook Air used in clamshell mode. I wanted to know, is it going to thermally throttle? Is this going to be a problem with cooling?
There you go.
I have clients
Would you like me to answer that on the show, Joe?
I actually wanted to get feedback from all the listeners who chimed in addition to your feedback saying, yeah, it's good. I use it every day. I really wish I had known this sooner. I wouldn't have been mentioning it on 3 different shows in the past, but I thought I had asked about this in the past. Maybe I didn't. The consensus from Sam, from Waples, from Mike Brogan, from Melvin, I'm sorry, I didn't get your last name, but basically everybody echoes the sentiment that the M2 MacBook Air in clamshell mode is great. Melvin actually went on to say he was using a 14-inch M1 Pro Max and MacBook Pro M1 Max, and he's barely seeing a difference with the MacBook Air M2. So it's a huge vote of confidence there. And it sounds like basically several people at least are using this M2 MacBook Air in clamshell mode with an external monitor, using it as a desktop, including Sam. And it's been great for everybody. So that's just a follow-up to previous request out there. Thank you all for the feedback. And my client is moving ahead with that purchase. So that also saves me and spares me the justification for buying a new MacBook Air M2 just to find that out myself. But it's also good to know that it would work well for me.
Oh, I thought this whole time you were angling for yourself.
Me too, actually.
No, this is for a client who uses it that way. And I was just debating between MacBook Pro 14-inch versus MacBook Air M2. And she could really benefit from a lighter machine when she carries it and doesn't need like the power of a MacBook Pro necessarily. So that was my big concern was, am I going to regret this? Because Sam, you had a lot of issues with your Intel MacBook Airs, not to open an old wound, but like that's...
They drink, everybody.
Yeah, we've all seen that. And I'm just glad to know the M2, even with no fan, which is just amazing, apparently has no issues in that mode.
I'm thinking of upgrading, actually. The M2 looks pretty slick, and I like the colors, but I don't usually upgrade every version, and the M1 has treated me well, except with the exception of the occasional restart needed. But the M2 is pretty powerful, it's pretty slick, and I can't stop staring at it, so I might pick one up.
I got that dark color. It shows all the potato chips every time I use it. All the thumbprints, the greasy thumbprints all over it.
You need
use it in clamshell mode.
You need to clean it with some Mouseposé.
Oh man,
you're cooking, Joe.
Speaking of new products, justifying the new purchases, as we were talking about recently, I had my eyes on an iPhone 14 Pro. I have not bought it yet. I'm just still looking at it, but it reminded me that John Gruber posted this tip a while back on Daring Fireball and then just recently reposted it or reiterated it, that his method to migrate to the new device, like a new iPhone from an old iPhone, is to use the device-to-device transfer. And now it seems to me like it takes a little bit longer overall to go device to device. And typically with clients, we use iCloud backup. I use that personally too. It just seems like the cleanest way to stay up and running on the existing device while getting the new one online and activated and restored from backup using iCloud backup. Apple presents the device-to-device method as, I think, like the primary method, like using Quick Start. And I generally skip that, but John Gruber says that it moves almost everything, including your login credentials for almost every app. That's a big difference because after you get a client up and running on a new device from iCloud backup, there's also the steps to go through all their accounts that they're logged into and re-authenticate them, open all the apps they use on a regular basis, which for me is a lot. For clients, maybe it's not that many, not a big deal. They can just figure it out, or we can direct them to like recent apps. But I do think this would help me personally quite a bit going to a new device, note to self. But also for some clients, it's maybe a cleaner transfer. The only downside is, of course, that you can't, I think that it ties up both devices for that duration.
When we bought our iPhone 13s last year, the pros, both my wife and I did it that way, and it was seamless and it was fast. So I wouldn't think twice by doing it that way and not doing an iCloud restore.
Nice. That's good to know. Yeah, the biggest distinction is apparently when you go iCloud backup restore, it migrates almost everything, but not the credentials, not the login credentials that way. So using device to device, apparently it's more secure, and so it does migrate that stuff. So that's, yeah, I don't know, not something that I had top of mind. So I think it's just a good kind of PSA.
Yeah, for sure. I think I remember a while back, like that was a whole big thing about why I had to do like an iTunes restore instead of iCloud, because iCloud wouldn't retain those credentials.
Command Control Power wouldn't exist without the support of our community. Special thanks to the following community members whose strong monthly support has sustained us for all these years: Ryan Gowdy, CoreCompetent.com, Weldon Dodd, Kanji.io, Richard Wingfield, EnvisionDesign.net, Adam Rice, AskAdam.io, Mac Admins Podcast, podcast.macadmins.org, Tim Nyberg, TheMacGuys.com, Michael Thompson, Origin84.com, Matthew Waples, Waples.net, Tom Puls, BoxIT.tech, Jerome Potters, PITPro.nl, Steve Sorbo, MacSOS.biz, Andy Espo, CallAndy.com, and Nate Sinal, WeAreScout.com. Thank you all very much, and thanks to our patrons at every level of support. If you enjoy the show, we really would love your support. And if you already support us and can increase your monthly pledge, we really do find that encouraging. CommandControlPower.com and click support. Thanks very much for listening and for supporting the show.
Jerry does his voices of customers of all kinds.
Am I on the cloud?
Joe spins his deeply detailed yarn.